for the National Autistic Society Scotland. And I run these events in partnership with Thriving Families, and I've got my colleague Carrie from Thriving Families on the call today, and with the Pines team, and Fiona from the Pines has been doing our session admin today. So thank you very much to Fiona for doing that. In terms of what we do as organisations organising the event today, we're both commissioned charities, third sector organisations, which means we're funded by the Highland Council to provide information services in the Highland area. And my National Autistic Society service can help with anything to do with autism before and after diagnosis. And Thriving Families can help with any additional support needs and with education. So if you're needing any support for your family, your young people you support, please get in touch with us after the session. We'll be pleased to help you. And if we can't help ourselves, hopefully we'll be able to direct you to organisations such as our lovely speakers today who can help you. In terms of today, we're delighted to be covering something on post-16 transitions because we know it's a really key topic for many families. And I'm really pleased today that we're joined by 5 great organisations who are going to tell us a lot more about the services that they provide. And hopefully by the end of it, you'll be a little bit reassured about the support that's available for your young person in Highland as they move on in the education system. So we've got the Highland Council Joint Transitions Team, UHI Transitions, Larch Highland, Country Bridge, and Enable Works Highland, and a very warm welcome to all of our speakers. And of course, thank you very much for giving up your time today. It's really appreciated. Sorry, I had a slide on housekeeping, but it seems to have disappeared. But just to say, in terms of housekeeping, we are recording the session today. One of the reasons we've asked you to keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute is to help that recording. And we're creating a great bank of films for the Pines. Hopefully you've seen some of our films already. They're available both on our YouTube channel and on the Pines website. And all of the sessions that we're running virtually like this, we're aiming to create a video for. So it's a really good chance if you don't get to come to the session to catch up afterwards. So we're aiming today to finish around 12:30. We have got a lot to do, so that's our aim. And we're hoping to finish off with some question and answers if there is time. And if I could ask you please to use the chat box for any questions that you've got during today, and Carrie's going to be monitoring that. And if we get a chance, we'll come to our speakers at the end if they're happy to stay for that. I would also encourage you to get in touch directly with any of the organisations you're hearing from today if you've got particular questions, and they'll be happy to help you, I'm sure. And we will send details about those organisations with all the contact information to you afterwards. So you'll have all those details there. We will be putting a survey link at the end. It's really, really short and we do appreciate you filling it out. As I said, we're commission services funded by the Highland Council, and needless to say, we're always having to justify what we're doing. So any feedback you can give us would be much appreciated. And we also appreciate any ideas for future sessions that we could run. And just a plug for our next session, which is on the 12th of May, Thursday 12th of May, it was all about behaviour. We've got Rachel Geddes joining us from the Pines team. Rachel has made a fabulous video for the Pines all about behaviour, and the 12th of May will be a chance to ask for Rachel to answer any of your questions about behaviour, and it's a great video in its own right as well. So that's it from me. I'm just going to hand over to Carrie now to say hello and to introduce Karen, who's going to be doing our first introduction this morning. So thanks very much for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoy today.
Hello, I'm Carrie. I've just noticed in the chat that there are a couple of people who, or at least one, who said that she couldn't hear. If you can't hear, well, you won't be able to hear me right now, but the best thing to do is to leave and come back in. So I have suggested that if anybody else sees anyone else saying they can't hear, please mention that if I'm distracted. I wanted to introduce today Karen Mackenzie, who we're very lucky to have here to talk to us about post-16 transitions from her personal lived experience. Karen is a trustee with Thriving Families, and she's also a volunteer and a parent advisor with ARC Scotland. So she's just going to give us a short introduction from the perspective of a parent helping a young person through that transition. So over to Karen.
Hi, Carrie, thank you for that. Yeah, I am a single parent to an amazing young man, and I say young man because he turned 20 yesterday, so he's no longer a child in any sense, he tells me. I have to say his transition has been fairly successful, not perfect in any imagination. I actually don't know what a perfect transition would look like. I don't think there is a template for it. But I think the reason that it was relatively stress-free for us is I've been thinking about what his transition from childhood and child services and education to adulthood, adult services, and his adult life would be probably since around the time we got his diagnosis when he was 8. And the reason I've been thinking about that is I remember as a child, when I was little, every time there was a family gathering, it was always, oh, haven't you grown? What do you want to do when you grow up? What are you going to do when you leave school? When my son got his diagnosis, and it's a diagnosis of autism with quite severe emotional difficulties as well, his biggest issues are his anxiety around the rest of the world. People stopped asking him or me what we thought he would do when he left school. It was almost as if, well, he's just going to be autistic when he's grown up, isn't he? And that really, that bothered me that we weren't thinking about his future. And I think if I hadn't had an experience of him, I probably wouldn't have thought about it in a different way than other people were. But we did very much always talk to him about things that he enjoyed, because for me, that was where we were going to find something that he could transition to do. And examples of that would be, I mean, he was about 12 and he thought he might like to join the army or maybe the Navy, but it looked like something he'd like to do. But even he himself said, but if I've got autism, I don't know if I can. So we literally walked into the recruiting centre on Bridge Street in Inverness and asked them. And he was there for about 2 hours while they phoned round because nobody actually knew. And they came up with a whole list of jobs that, yes, they did say an autism diagnosis was possibly a no, you couldn't do, but not a definite. And a whole list of things that he could do. And these 3 guys spent hours sitting chatting to him about what different jobs would be. And that kind of gave me a lot of confidence that it wasn't that the world didn't think he could do anything. It was just maybe that we needed to think about it in a slightly different way. And although he was only in school part-time, school worked very much with him in what do you enjoy, what do you like doing, what don't you like doing. So when he was coming up for 16 and we were starting to put a transition plan in progress, all the people around him already knew what he liked. They already knew that there were some things that were just definite. I mean, he really doesn't like people. COVID lockdown has been his dream world. It's been all online. He hasn't had to go out and speak to people. He hasn't had to go into a place he doesn't know. He hasn't had to, very pressure put on him that he couldn't cope. But, you know, if he could live lockdown for the rest of his life, he would quite happily. And that was great that we knew those things about him, but it also meant that we were already starting to focus in. And I think a lot of the problems people have with transition is suddenly we've been so wrapped up in the education side of things that suddenly they come to 16 and it's like, oh, right, we have to start thinking about something different now. And I think to get the young people, if they can, thinking about what they enjoy beforehand, which is what we do for children who haven't got a diagnosis of any additional need, makes that transition process so much easier for them and for all of us around them, because we're not suddenly trying to either fit them into things that we know are there or come up with something that might be of interest to them. I mean, the amount of things that we've done with him, he loves flying. He'd love to be a helicopter pilot. So we got him a flying lesson. We got him to speak to people out at the airport who talked through, because he's convinced he could do it. You know, I mean, ideally he'd like to be a helicopter pilot in Hawaii because they've got good mountains. You know, I mean, he doesn't dream small, my boy. He dreams big for what he wants. He's convinced that nothing would stop him going off on his own to Hawaii tomorrow and doing it. I, on the other hand, as his mother, am not quite convinced, given the fact he can't go to the shop and buy a pint of milk when he wants it for his breakfast. So we've got to sort of balance those things, but letting him have those big dreams and finding out what they would actually involve. I mean, he actually sat and looked at some of the theory qualifications you have to do to be a pilot with a pilot, and he could answer the questions, and the guy was like, yeah, he'll have no problem, he'll be fine. So I was reassured that he's not going to try something and just get a huge knockback because he's not ready for it as yet. And he had the confidence that I wasn't saying, oh no, you can't do that, which a lot of people have done. So for me, that's the biggest thing I would say to anyone coming up for transition is don't wait till the last year before they're leaving school. You get them and you organised for a long time and a build up to it. And then the whole experience for everyone and for all the professionals that are going to come in and help support you through this, they're going to come in with you going, well, these are the things that we know are definite no's. These are the things that we're interested in. These are his likes, these are his dislikes. These are the issues that are going to come up that we know you're going to have to face with him. I mean, he started working with Enable Scotland about 6 months before he left school. And he's worked with a couple of different people there, but they were very aware it's going to take a long time for him to actually want to do very much with you. So they just had a few chat, and because it was COVID, it was easier for him because it was all online. And they were quite comfortable. They're like, yeah, you know, there's no point in us telling you to go and work in a shop. You don't like people, that's not going to work for you. But how about we look at these courses, or maybe doing a bit of volunteering here? And he was open to it, but he was only open to it because he'd been hearing it from me for years that this was how we were going to make his life work. We were going to try something, and if it didn't work, it doesn't work. But we weren't going to say no to things without experiencing them, asking about them, asking questions. And that for me has been the biggest thing. But it's also accepting that, like I say, he turned 20 yesterday. We're only baby steps into his transition. There's a long way to go yet for me to be able to say his transition's maybe over, if that's ever something that happens, because I'm also transitioning from being a 24/7 independent. Suddenly I've got all this time. So it's explaining to him, I'm also transitioning from being just your mum to being your mum, and also maybe someone who works. That's why I took on the volunteer role with Thriving Families, because sometimes he has to give me peace to go and do a board meeting or go and do something for Thriving Families. So it's explaining to him that we're all transitioning all the time. Yes, we say his transition is like 16 to 25, but at 25, he's not stopped changing in his life. That will continue. But I think we've set him in good stead by the way we've set that up, that we've done it slowly and incrementally as we've gone along, without ever saying there's a line in the sand where one thing changes from another. And that's something that's quite important to remember when you're doing this, that it's not a case of suddenly at 18 everything's changed and they're an adult and they don't need this, but they do need. That's not how this is going to work. You have to be working with them all the way through. And I hope that helps any other parents that are coming up that are worried about how this is going. It's not big and it's not scary, but it is going to be quite a long ongoing process, and you have to be kind of prepared to be in there in the middle of it.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks very much for sharing your advice and your own story as well. It's absolutely great. So thank you for setting the scene for us today. So we're going to get going with the sessions today. I think it might be easiest to actually, if you're not speaking, if I could ask you to put your cameras off from now onwards, and then we'll just switch cameras on when you are presenting. So as I said, I'm very delighted to welcome our speakers today. We're going to start with Eugene, who's from the Joint Transitions team. So I'm sure he's going to tell us a little bit more about what they do. So I'll hand over to you, Eugene, and thank you.
I'm Eugene McGowan. I'm the social work Joint Transitions team manager, and my specialism is actually the 18 to 25-year-olds, but as a team we cover 14 to 25. The team is essentially made up of two agencies: Highland Council covering 14 to 17 and NHS side, as I was saying. 18 to 25. Geographically, we cover the whole South and Mid, which is, you know, from Granton and Spey to Tane. Our aim is to offer a unique dynamic service which is holistic and approach seeks out opportunities for young people to promote their self-determination and personal fulfilment during transition period. Highland Council side of the team have a practice lead, social workers, and we have a few vacancies, but we should be having a professional family key worker, autism practitioner, and community child worker. For the Highland Council side, the referral process is in line with the Highland practice model and is through the child plan process. The Highland practice model facilitates consideration of what support is required to improve the outcome for the child. It promotes the participation of children, young people and their families as essential to assessing, planning and taking action. On the NHS adult sides, there's myself, 6 social workers, 2 referral assessment officers. We also have access to a learning disability nurse and learning disability services, and we also have our own admin. In terms of our side of the service, the referral system's a little bit more open. We work with people who have a disability, but we also work with people who may just be vulnerable and have some kind of support need. Referrals can be made to the transitions team, and the telephone number can be supplied at the end of the session, along with the email address for the joint transitions team. In terms of Highland Council side, use the child's plan in terms of a tool for assessing needs. On the adult side, we use a personal outcome plan, and part of the reason for formulating a transitions team is that there was the experience for many families that at the end of a process where somebody was moving from 17 to 18, it felt like the service had a few shortfalls. The whole idea of the transitions team is that the NHS side and Highland Council side have better communication with each other and are better able to anticipate the needs of people coming from the Highland Council cohort of people who have a need, and that we ensure that any funding that's in place for care package is continued in the adult side without you know, that being missed in some way. So you know, as part of a team, we would work with other agencies and take advice from them, as well as the families, and we place the young person at the centre of any assessment process. We'd also try to anticipate what their needs might be in the future in terms of welfare benefits, housing and employability services, to name but a few. We also give advice to families and the young person in relation to self-directed support, So if we believe they have an assessed need, then that's something that we could discuss with families about what sort of service would best be tailored and meet that person's needs. Professionally, we'd also be giving advice in terms of child protection and adult support protection. The team has a mix of skills, obviously, having both agencies working with young people. In terms of adult support protection, my side of the team would see an adult as being somebody who's 16, and for their protection, we need to consider whether or not they're able to safeguard their own well-being, property rights, or other interests. They would be in a difficult situation where we need to consider whether or not they are at risk of harm and that they are affected by disability, meaning that they are more likely to be harmed than those not so affected. Also, we'd give families advice in relation to adults with incapacity. It may be the case that the young person that we're working with finds it difficult to make informed decisions about their welfare and future long-term needs. And in those instances, that young person might then also be clinically assessed as needing support from a guardian. That could be a private guardian, so that could be a family member, or that could be the local authority, and that's something else that would be that we would speak to the families directly about in terms of who would be best placed to do that. So as I said at the beginning, the Joint Transitions team covers a wide area. There is a referral process, and I'll pass on the contact details for the Joint Transitions team so that everybody can get hold of that at the end of this meeting.
Thank you very much, Eugene, for that. Sorry, I think your microphone just dipped in a little bit in and out there. I don't think that there was anything else at the end that I've missed, but hopefully everybody has got all that. And it's great the session's being recorded today, so obviously you can go back to the presentation, and we will be sending information out as well about the Joint Transitions team. It was particularly great, I think, to hear the partnership working that you have in terms of other organisations, and particularly between NHS and the Highland Council. I think it's very reassuring to hear that there are links between those for people. So thank you very much. So we have got just one question that's come into the chat. If you've just got a minute to answer that one. If the young person's left school, can they still access the Joint Transitions team?
Yes.
Perfect. There we go. Great. That's really reassuring.
There's certainly some. We didn't see anybody slip through the cracks. So yes, I appreciate there's some difficulties when a young person leaves school and they're 16 or under 18. So it's actually something that we're looking at, and that at some point, probably not in the too distant future, we're hoping to have something more specific to deal with that exact eventuality. But yes, be reassured that that's we wouldn't see the person or the family go without any kind of service at all. We believe there's a need.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was really interesting and useful to hear. So we're going to move on now to our next speaker, and we've got I think both Amanda and Lindsay from UHI Transitions, but I'm not sure whether one or either of you is on screen. As you can see, Amanda is definitely from UHI with her fabulous backdrop. So I'll hand over to you both now, and thank you very much indeed.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Amanda Learmonth and I'm the Access and Transition Coordinator at UHI Inverness, and I'm here with my colleague Lindsay Mason, who's our Learning Support Team Manager. So we're just going to have a chat about the sort of transition support and the ongoing support that we can provide anybody that chooses to study at UHI Inverness. So as I said, my role is to support students who are transitioning over from school, or they've maybe been out of school and out of education for a wee while. I provide support for all students who maybe require a bit of extra consideration, whether that's through an ASN need or maybe some anxiety or mental health support, any students who are care experienced, any students who have caring responsibilities, and any students who find themselves estranged from their families. One of the first things that we'll do when I receive a referral, or if someone contacts me and makes an inquiry, is arrange to complete what we would call a transition support plan. Within that transition support plan, we cover sort of all areas of support. So initially we would discuss what the young person's interests were, if they possibly hadn't applied for a course as yet, but were just sort of tipping their toe in the water, so to speak, and seeing what options were available to them. We could have a chat about their various interests and what courses might be appropriate for them. We would also cover any academic support need that they may have, and any sort of emotional and social challenges that they may have. And moving on from that, we would then possibly do referrals on to Lindsay's ASN team and on to our wellbeing team, who can provide a variety of supports from one-to-one counselling to sort of group work and various wellbeing workshops, but Lindsay will go into more detail about them. We also, within the transition support plan, cover the funding application process, have a look at the young person and their family's circumstances, and explore what financial supports they're entitled to. That can include also accessing IT support. So we have a loan laptop system and also dongles that we can provide for anybody that's on a low income, so that we can ensure that they've got all the sort of IT equipment that they require. We also cover housing support needs, so whether that's students that are looking for halls, or whether it's families that are experiencing difficulties within their own tenancies, we can certainly liaise with housing and support students and their families with any challenges that they may have. Obviously, this involves quite a lot of linking in with external support, such as social work, Enable, Calman, Bernardo's, and a wide variety of sort of third sector organisations. And I would say to families, any organisation that's supporting your child are more than welcome to join that process if you feel it would be beneficial. The more information we have, the more support we can replicate that's already in place. So we can never have too much information. We also would link in with the external agencies in terms of maybe travel planning, things like that. So over the summer periods, we would do tours of the campus and link in, for example, somebody from Enable might be doing some practicing independent travel, and we can tie that in that they're practicing a bus journey to the campus and then meeting with myself and getting a tour of the campus afterwards. We would also, for students who would maybe benefit from meeting some of the support teams and the academic staff before the course commences, just to reduce any anxieties, we can also undertake that over the summer period and just before their course commences. In terms of linking in with external agencies, we can do referrals to external support such as Connecting Carers, Highland Council Housing Department, RASASH, and a wide variety of supports. If there's support we can't provide, we'll certainly do our best to source it externally as well. In terms of the tours, kind of going back to what Karen had said and picking up on her point, if you feel, it's not just that we provide the support for students who are starting next August, we can provide this at any point. So if you've got a young person who's 13, 14, 15, any age, and they're starting to explore what they would like to do post school and want to see if college is something that they feel would be beneficial for them, we're happy to have a chat and bring them on campus and have a tour and see if that's an option that, you know, they want to explore further. So feel free to get in touch at any time. In terms of myself, I also do provide ongoing support as long as we have consent from the young person to share information with partner agencies or families, just in terms of students' progress and keeping an eye on their well-being and raising any concerns if there are any concerns. So just be reassured, it's not a case of once they're in the door, that's it, you won't hear any more. We will certainly link in with you and keep you updated and share any concerns, and also share success and positive progress stories as well, to keep you reassured if we have that consent in place from students. I'll pass you on to my colleague Lindsay just now, who'll go a bit more in depth about the additional supports that are provided from her team. But at any point, if you've got any questions, you can get in touch. All our details are on the slides that we'll share later. Okay.
Thanks, Amanda. So as Amanda said, my name's Lindsay Mason and I'm the Wellbeing and Learning Support Manager at UHI Inverness. So Amanda's definitely your first point of contact for any early inquiries. And as you said, she can create bespoke transitional support plans. Amanda sits within the wider student support team. And the student support team are basically a group of personal development advisors at further education level. All students have a personal development advisor who's their kind of named contact, who will look after their progress and pastoral support, as well as their liaising with academic staff when needed. If students are going in at higher education level, so that's an HNC course up to degree or postgraduate, they would have a personal academic tutor instead, but essentially the same role with a different name. The wider student support team can provide all sorts of information on course choices. They can help people look at their qualifications and work out which course might be most suitable for them, careers advice, post-study, accommodation information, and help with filling in UCAS applications, for example, and funding advice, all sorts of things like that. So for students that are maybe bypassing the transitional support needs, we do have a dedicated student support team that also can be brought in for all of those queries. And for anyone who's wanting to look at the general course options that we have, they're all listed on our website. So I'm going to pass on this PowerPoint link to the Pines afterwards so you can have all this information in writing. But I would encourage you just to go onto the UHI Inverness website and do a course search and just see what we've got available and look up any subject areas of interest and just see what's on offer. And then when you've maybe got some ideas, you can get in touch with Amanda or the student support team just to sort of help you narrow down what you might be eligible for. We do also include in the curriculum our supported education courses. So they are access level courses where we have additional support kind of built in to the support there. So for example, they may involve skills builders courses where independent learning skills are included. They usually cover a wide variety of curricular subjects, so they're not just devoted to one curricular area, and they have extra staff in the classroom, so they've got kind of extra support assistants built into the classroom to support students there. So if you check out our course options on the website, that might help with early kind of thoughts and queries. I myself manage the learning support team. So when students come onto a course and they identify as having an additional support need and feel that there may be something that we would need to do for their access or to help them with their learning, they would meet with a member of my team. So we call our staff education support advisors. I have members of the team that are devoted to different course areas. So for a student that chooses forestry, for example, it would be Nim that they have as a named point of contact. If it's nursing, it would be Tracy. So what's nice is by doing that, the student gets to know their own education support advisor and has that named contact for the duration of their studies. We work with the student to kind of identify what type of support they do and don't want to have. So it may just be that we offer general advice and kind of point them in the right direction for resources and software that might support them during their studies. It could be that we write a personal learning support plan for them, and that's a document that gets shared with their lecturers, which outlines reasonable adjustments that the lecturers would be expected to make. Sometimes the PLSP is just to highlight the needs to the lecturers so that lecturers are aware of maybe a health condition or a learning preference. But sometimes it also contains really clear directions. For example, the student requires a different assessment arrangement, so they may require a scribe for an exam. So that's the PLSP, and any contact with the learning support team is needed to provide a PLSP. As Amanda mentioned, if she's the first point of contact for somebody, she will draw in the learning support team if that's needed. So if she realises that, you know, ADHD or dyslexia or a health issue is a factor in this student's support needs, she will then link up with our teams just to provide that dedicated involvement. We do also include a little bit of one-to-one support. So if a student maybe, for example, has autism and we benefit from like a weekly check-in with their education support advisor, we can arrange to provide that through the whole year if needed. A lot of students benefit from a bit of support with direction in their studies. It's a big jump sometimes from school, and it helps to check in with somebody who'll sit down, look at what they've been asked to do and help keep on top of timetables, keep on top of deadlines, and just provide that kind of confidence boost and that check-in, just to make sure that nothing's getting lost a little bit or forgotten about. We also have a wellbeing team. So we've got 2 wellbeing officers and 4 counsellors at the moment. Really busy team. We have a lot of mental health issues amongst the student body. I think that's just you know, indicative of the national picture at the moment. So the team are busy. What we try to do is provide a lot of accessible and preventative wellbeing support as well. So we constantly run workshops, we offer drop-in appointments, we can triage students when we first meet them just to assess a level of risk and then recommend what kind of level of contact that they might have. So we could provide them with a counsellor who they meet every week for a wee while, or it could just be that they have access to that counsellor that they've met on an as and when needed basis if they feel their mental health's taken a dip. So we very much encourage across all areas self-autonomy and promoting independent skills and providing students with that confidence and awareness of how to manage their own mental health and their own study skills. We will obviously link in with external agencies when needed, so we do have quite strong links with external agencies, including social work, local charities, and external agencies that would provide ongoing mental health support, such as the NHS, over and above what we can provide in college. One of the newer additions to our support provision is a dedicated space, and we've called this the Bothy. This is quite a large space that we have on the ground floor. We use it for delivering our workshops, so we're running frequent wellbeing workshops. You know, they have a focus on maybe managing anxiety or how to improve your focus and motivation skills. We also have one running just now, which is about the pandemic and how that might have affected you and how to cope with the changes that you might have noticed in your mental health because of the pandemic. Within that room, we also have computers where students can just come in and work away on themselves, or they might have an appointment with their education support advisor, and that's where they would work together as well. We have within that area as well kind of a nook, you know, with soft seating, and that's just so that students can come in and hang out there if they want to, if they want a quiet space. We've specifically designed the space so that it's quite quiet and calm. We've looked at, you know, soft lighting, soft furnishings, plants and lamps and things like that, just so that it becomes a calming space that they can find within the campus. We appreciate a lot of students with anxiety or neurodiversity find the campus can be a little bit busy at times, you know, maybe lunchtime the canteen feels a little bit busy. So, you know, they're welcome to just use the space as a kind of safe space. We've got a couple of staff there all the time. They get to know students, and that's become quite a popular space for certain regular visitors to the Bothy. The workshops and resources that students can access in the Bothy are also put up on our virtual learning environment, which is we use a Brightspace platform. So we've kind of replicated the information that you can find physically in the Bothy with what we've got virtually online. So all students get to know the Brightspace because that's where all learning resources from their classes are placed. So within that, they can link up with study skills advice, with video recordings of the workshops that we run. So even if they're working from home online, they can also drop into the workshops and things that we're running there as well. We've got a website link for further information on the Bothy in the site there. And just to point out as well, as I know Karen mentioned that her son preferred to work from home, we do have some courses at UHI that are exclusively online for students that we'd rather just not come onto campus and be a student in person. So just have a look at the course options for things like that. I would say you're very welcome to come in by a prior appointment. We can organise tours and visits to the campus, as Amanda said. We do have a few kind of open days and taster events happening, and that's very much to support transitional people that would benefit from early visits, and to answer any questions, to give you a flavour of the building and what it looks like and how it feels. So we've actually got taster nights running at the moment on every Wednesday up until the 16th of May, and there are taster nights of specific subjects. So you can come in and have a shot in a kind of drama activity, an art activity, motor vehicle activity. There's lots of different ones running. You might want to save the date for Saturday the 21st of May because we haven't got it published yet, but we're going to have an open day then, and that would just be quite a large open day in terms of lots of people being invited, applicants being invited and encouraged to come have a tour of the building, attend one of our talks in the lecture theatre, come and see the Bothy. There'll be food, there'll be lots of activities happening. So for students that want to come along to that, you're very welcome to keep an eye on the website for information about that. But if you prefer a bespoke, smaller taster event, as Amanda said, then just get in touch with us and we can have you and your family up by yourselves, and Amanda can link up with lecturers if you've got questions about specific subjects. So that's all from us just now. We're happy to answer some quick queries just now before we leave you.
We haven't got any questions in the chat, but everybody will hopefully get all your information and contact details afterwards. So if anyone's got any questions, I have to say, if anybody hasn't been to the campus, do go and have a look. We are so lucky in the Highlands to have UHI. It's an absolutely stunning location and an amazing range of courses as well. I think it's really eye-opening to have a look through your list of courses and see all the different things that young people can study. And hopefully, reassuring for people listening today to understand the support that's available for their young person, and reassuring for the young person and the parents as well to know that they really will be looked after and supported at UHI. In fact, one question I did have, that there was at one point a spectrum support group running at UHI. Do you know whether that's still running?
Yeah, we have a neurodiverse group at Thursday lunchtime. Yeah, and that's just we run it in the Bothy, and it's a social opportunity for students who have neurodiversity just to meet with each other. They can have lunch together, they can study on what they're working on, and we've got a couple of staff present that facilitate that just to pick up on any questions or concerns that somebody might have.
That's great. That's really great, actually, because actually just facilitating links between young people will be lovely if they're back in person as well. But also great to hear that there are some courses that people can still do virtually. We know a lot of young people did like Karen's son, the fact that they didn't actually have to go into somewhere to learn. So that's great. Thank you so much to Amanda and Lindsay for your presentation today. It was great to hear from you. So thank you very much indeed. Right, well, we'll move on to Larch Highland, and we've got Ishbel going to talk to us. So if you're ready, Ishbel. Hello.
Hello.
Is it and Eleanor as well, is it?
Me today.
It's me.
Yeah.
I am Eunice McClelland.
Lovely to see you both. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so if anybody didn't catch there, my name's Ishbel.
That's Ishbel.
And this is
Eunice McClelland.
Eunice McClelland. I've worked at Larch for 7 years. How many years have you been coming to Larch for? About 12 years now?
Might be,
Yeah.
That's terrible.
So between us, we've got about 20 years of experience of working in Larsh Highland. Larsh Highland is a service for adults with learning disabilities from across the Highlands of Scotland.
Correct. Yes.
We're in a very quick presentation
Yes,
today.
it
We're going to
was.
try and give you a wee impression of who we are,
Mhm.
what we do,
Yes.
and what's important to us.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that's sort of what we're hoping to go through today.
Smashing.
I don't know if anybody has heard of Larsh,
No.
but it's actually an international
It's a
federation.
famous Tom, the guy, the Frenchman,
Yeah.
built this workshop for
Indeed,
us.
there was a French-Canadian man called Jean Vanier who started it all the way back in 1964. Yeah, absolutely. And we are a charity, but there's large communities.
The new houses, and it's got everything.
Yeah.
It's got different things.
Yeah.
New
And there's large communities all over the world, aren't there? Yes. So there's 138 communities in 38 different countries across 5 continents. So it's all over the world. And in Inverness, Larsh started back in 1974. So it was only 10 years after sort of the original foundations of Larsh. As you can see here, we've got sort of Larsh in Palestine, Larsh in Kenya, Larsh UK, obviously. There's 11 communities in Larsh UK, but only 2 in Scotland. So there's Inverness and Edinburgh in Scotland as well.
And Perthshire.
Perth, they're hoping to start one in Perth, aren't they? Yeah,
Nice.
they're keeping their fingers crossed. So yeah, it was originally founded as a Christian organisation, but nowadays we welcome all faiths and no faiths at all. And we have sort of 2 varieties of types of service we do. We do some support of people within their houses, and we do some support of people in the workshop service as well.
And then parents like taking home and even buying taxis, transport.
Definitely. So when we originally started, a lot of the people that we were supporting were moving out from institutions, so out of big hospitals where they'd have lots of people with learning disabilities together. But now we have people moving out from their family homes, so there's really been a general changeover. We try to offer a space for somebody to live as long as it's right for them, so for as long as they feel really well supported, for as long as we're able to meet their support needs, we try and provide a space. Yeah,
I agree. Nice one.
Okie dokie.
I love that.
So our housing support service,
friends here.
Indeed.
We've got Lil and Dee Dee.
Yeah, Lil and Libby, I think.
Libby.
Yeah.
I should know that.
That's okay. So our housing support service is registered with the Care Inspectorate. It's actually dual registered as housing support and care at home. But we've got a variety of different types of support you can receive from us. Some of it can be in a shared group house. So maybe 4 or 5 people with learning.
Houses.
Indeed.
It's not the same, you know.
Yeah. So it's maybe 4 or 5 people with learning disabilities living with each other. In almost all of the houses in Highland, we also have live-in assistants. Now, who are the live-in assistants? Do you know? So they come from overseas often.
Yes.
And they're
Mactala, Shasha, and Brianna House. Yes.
So we've got 4 different shared houses in Larsh Highland, and we have people coming from overseas who are often volunteers to come and live with people with learning disabilities. Sometimes they're coming just to get a wee bit of experience in another area. Sometimes they're coming to get some qualifications in the care sector and things like that. But we have been doing that for quite a few years now. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll also have a pool of live-out assistants who are carrying out the general day-to-day support and making sure that everything's ticking over and everything's going well.
And we've got a new leader for Head and Larsh.
Yeah, we've got a new leader here now.
Lovely people. Happy faces.
He's super, isn't he?
Yeah, lovely people. To make me everybody happy.
Indeed.
The weather like this. It's just gorgeous in the Highlands.
So the shared living model is often got some people living together, but that's not right for everybody. Some people don't like to share all of their life together. Each person has a tenancy for their own room, so it's like a house of multiple occupancy.
On your own bathroom, private things.
Indeed, and then some people in the communal areas, you can spend time together. Often in the shared houses, we'll do it a little bit like a family home model. So we'll come together, we'll eat meals together, and generally get to know each other really well as you live together. Some people it's not right for. Those people might want to get an independent living service, so they have their own house and they live in it on their own. They will get support coming in and out of during the day. And we try to take that isolation out of independent living. I think there was a big pendulum swing towards independent living.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can feel a wee bit lonely.
Yeah.
So we try and encourage people to be able to hop on their bike
Do
and
something fun.
cycle around and get their
Oh.
tea in one of the big houses if they're missing folk,
It
or
was great
be
with
part of the
company.
community still.
Yeah.
Yeah, spending time together is
I
really,
like
really
something
important.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Rather than being boring.
So what's the other thing that we have? What do you come to units in?
Right. We got my friends, we got,
Yeah. Where are we just now?
we are large and workshop for learning disability.
We're at the workshops, indeed. So how many
Yes.
workshops do we have? Can you remember the workshops?
Quite a lot.
So we've got
4
4 different workshops. Which one are you in today?
life skill.
Yeah.
And remember life skill on Tuesday, and then gardening with Alice. And
Yeah.
So much keeping busy.
Yeah.
And they're doing lots and lots of different jobs. And it's lovely
Definitely.
weather like this. Planting your flowers bulbs.
Okay.
And make sure careful how to put them properly
Perfect.
things.
Yeah. So we've got
Alright.
4 different workshops, the life skills and the
Yes.
garden, which you attend both of. We also have
Yeah.
a candle making
I
workshop
used to go to candles.
and a woodwork workshop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did it
So
once with Holly
indeed. So
many years ago.
indeed. So the workshops, it's all about working towards a goal or a product or a thing. We tend to sell our products,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
And I think that's a real part of where people get real pride in
Yeah.
what they've done, because they can see somebody handing over cash.
And it's
for
very
your
nice,
hard work.
Very happy.
Indeed. And at the end of the week, what do you get?
Wages.
Yeah, so at the end of every week, we give sort of a token wage to people, just to say
Yeah.
thank you so much for your hard work this week.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then you keep for like holidays and the money and go with your friends.
That's very sensible. Indeed. So you sort of keep your money, save it up, and spend it on
Yeah.
something fun. I
Yes.
think there'd be a riot if we stopped doing wages,
No,
to
we
be
don't want
perfectly
that.
honest.
No, if they're not nice good.
Indeed. So we have over 40 people coming from across Highland into the
Yeah.
workshops.
That's right.
Some people come for just one half day for a really short slot.
Different days.
Some people come for 4 full days. It's
Yeah.
totally down to what you want, what's right for you, and
Uh-huh.
also what our availability is.
Absolutely.
Indeed,
Different days,
indeed.
yes.
So we all work towards individual outcomes.
Yes,
So every
yes.
person has their own thing that they're working towards, but a really important part of what we're doing is working as a team.
Yes.
So it's getting a wee bit of knowledge of how other people work with you.
Yeah.
We normally work on a 1-to-4 ratio.
Yeah.
There'll be about 20 people in the workshop in the day, but they'll be spread out between the 4 different workshops. It can have quite a buzzy atmosphere, would you say? Yeah, it's quite exciting.
This is,
but we do have a
somebody from L'arche.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we do
doing
have a quiet room
presentation.
available.
I remember the quiet room had a hard time, and it's very relaxing. I feel
Yeah.
quite good, and staff were keeping company and talking, been
Yeah.
really good. And there's books to help you if you want to look
Yeah.
at it, to relax.
So we do have a quiet room available if it's just all getting a bit much and you need to get some peace and quiet.
I
Is that
agree.
right?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Good,
It's been a-
good.
I don't want to know that. Thank you very much. Happy thoughts. please.
And then
Mm.
the last thing that we've got here, and this is a very important
Oh,
slide, is celebrations. We do like to party at large.
Yeah.
So we tend to have regular get-togethers through the year. Some of them are gatherings where we'll be maybe celebrating Christmas or
Mhm.
Easter or something like that. Some of them will just be a picnic or a giant Christmas lunch or a summer picnic down in Doors Beach sometimes.
That sounds lovely. We'll
Yeah.
look for it.
Absolutely.
I remember when I went there. I was around.
Yeah. And sometimes there'll be a spiritual element to the gatherings and celebrations. So
Yeah.
people might open it with a wee moment of silence or prayer or
Yeah.
reflection of thinking
Yeah,
about somebody.
yeah, definitely.
And we just want to share the joy and
Yeah.
make known the gifts of people with learning disabilities
That's right.
generally out and about in the community. I think that's really important. We get such joy from working with people
Yeah.
and working with such a big range of people. And that's, I think, really, really important. We strive to celebrate you all and every
Yeah.
achievement that you make.
Yeah.
And we celebrate birthdays, anniversaries,
Yes.
and generally
That's
just
right.
love spending time together.
Yes.
Would you say that's fair?
Yes, it's fair. Yes.
How it works, so people can come to L'Arche with different types of funding.
Mhm.
I'll just turn off the effects.
Good idea.
So people can come to L'Arche with different types of
okay.
funding. Some people have private packages, which are just sort of built fully around them. Some people use self-directed support, which is where you're given a wee budget and you can choose how and when you want to go there. We do have some block funding, which is NHS give us a block of money and we assign the places generally and who needs it. So there's a total variety, and some people just pay privately for different things as well. So it's a general mixture, isn't it? You can get lots of different things through L'Arche. There's been a bit of an upheaval recently with the pandemic. It's all changed a little bit.
God. I remember then COVID is the world disaster and they don't want to look at the TV.
Yeah.
And it's very sad for Ukraine.
Definitely.
And it's very sad that Ukraine is a horrible bomb. And
what did we do for Ukraine?
And we did the flags.
Yeah, we sold some candles with Ukrainian flags to raise some money.
Yes.
And send it over to the charities in Ukraine.
My mum put the money in as well.
Indeed.
Yes.
But the pandemic was a really big upheaval for a lot of our guys, wasn't it? The workshops had to close for a while, so we introduced a bit more of a blended model. So we're back and open now, but we are now able to provide 3 different types of support. So we can do outreach support where we come out and meet you in the community, do some one-to-one sessions, you get to know the service, find out what it's about without that sort of daunting coming into a building of 25 people. We also offer some virtual support, so it's totally free, but we run some online workshops through the week. We do a wee cooking workshop and a musical Maccathon workshop, and it's generally just a chance for people to get to know the service.
Oh, that's quite nice, yes.
And then we also offer the in-person workshop service. They're running slightly shorter than they used to because we have to have staggered start and finish times, but other than that, it's close to normal, other than us wearing face masks.
Got to be careful and make sure you wash your hands, keep it separate and they're not among the crowded.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just seen a question there asking about the age range. So people can come to L'Arche from when they're 18 years old. To get involved in the service, you might want to come down for a tour or a taster, and we're able to do them again, which is really great.
Take your family
and you can find out what it's like, whether you think it's suitable for you.
Yes.
Have a try of some of the different activities and find out. So once you're 18, we'll take you, and then you can stay with L'Arche for as long as it's right for you. We had a guy living in L'Arche for 41 years.
Yes, we did.
And that was just really fantastic. It's a really nice sort of place for him to call home, and he became a real sort of part of the service, if that makes sense. And then for the workshops, we say 18, and then as long as you're getting something out of it, or as long as we are able to meet your support needs with what your funding is. If you need a little bit of extra help in the workshops, and a 1-to-4 ratio might be a bit tricky for you, you can come with your own 1-to-1 support worker, and they can just help you sort of get involved and take part in all of the activities, or if you need to take sort of a lot of medication or stuff. Waiting list wise, we tend to have more of a registered and interest list. Finding the right people to match the right spaces and places is really important. So we'll tend to just try and match the spaces with the individuals, and then sort of making it through with the social workers to make sure there's a funding package or it's all sort of in line ahead of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the guys about L'Arche? I feel like we've had our 15 minutes.
Yes, we had lovely friends want to talk and share about your loving years. What they're up to in the lockdown. And it would be nice to go for a walk or 1-to-1 or go for a sports centre. There's so much things to do. And you can make cards, you can make cake, and you make something nice for your friends or family. And that's quite nice.
I think you're worked very hard when you come to L'Arche, aren't you? Absolutely. So you're always working hard on something.
Yes, absolutely. You don't sitting doing nothing. It's not much fun.
No. Righto. Shall we say thank you?
Thank you very much. Have a nice day, folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, it sounds like you have a ball at L'Arche. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think I saw on one of the slides that you put there, a home away from home, and I have to say that's really what it did feel like. So thank you so much for sharing that information. I personally hadn't heard of Lush, and I didn't really know what you did, so it's been a real eye-opener for me, and hopefully again we can share information afterwards with anybody who might be interested in looking at Lush for their young person. So thank you so much to both of you for joining. It was absolutely great. Right, we're going to move on today, and I'm delighted that we've got Norma joining us from Cantry Bridge, and Norma, if you are happy to go ahead, that would be absolutely lovely, and tell us a bit more about the support available from Cantry.
Super. Alison, I should say that my connection's coming in and out, so hopefully I don't lose everyone. So I'll keep going until there's no connection. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Norma, I manage the day service at Cantry. If you don't know us, we're based in between Inverness and Nairn on the back road. And we have students who come, our main students come from Highlands, we have students from the Western Isles, Murray, and we've even got a student at the moment from Richmond down in London. So just like Ishbel and Lars, we're back to almost normal after some of the COVID restrictions, which is tough. I have to say that our students have dealt really well with it. They're looking forward, now that we're back, hopefully moving forward, still with restrictions in. So essentially, skills, skills college at the heart of what we do. The contribution outdoors, very much practical.
No, we're sorry to interrupt. It's quite difficult to hear. The sound is dipping in and out. Is that your connection?
I think it's possibly connection, Alison, because when I've been hearing listening to others, I think it's my connection. Not sure.
I wonder if the other option is to pop your camera off and see if that improves things, or just that, if you were happy to.
We're essentially a rural skills training facility. Our students like to be outdoors and they like learning practical skills and not being based in a classroom. And we have a variety of departments. So we've got a horticultural department, a gardening department, and that's very much depending on the season, what the tasks would be doing. So recently there've been sewing going on. We're due to open our cafe next week, so there's been a lot of site tidying up. We've got greenhouses, potting sheds, polytunnel, so there's lots of space for students in that group. Sometimes just being able to work in a quieter area of the site works well. We have an animal, and that's split into a small and large department. So at the moment we have some rabbits, guinea pigs, we have hens, ducks, so we've got chinchillas, silver pheasant, and we're looking, because of just coming out of some COVID restrictions, we're just looking to replenish the stock in the department. We don't have as much as we did have. In our farming department, we have sheep and goats, and again we're just coming through the lambing, which is also an interesting time for the students. Over winter we I call it bed and breakfast for cows, but we look after another farmer's cows over the winter, and so some of our students really like working with the bigger animals. Some prefer the small and some is a mixture of both. But in that department, it's looking after all aspects of looking after animals, from feeding, cleaning, department maintenance. So it's not always about just, you know, direct hands-on animal care. We've got a wood skills team as well who are very creative, so they can get involved with all sorts of things. Some students will make their own individual projects. We've had one student who made 2 sheds which she took over to Harris. We've had one student making Harry Potter ones. Somebody's making a guitar at the moment. They converted an old piano into a wine bar. That was for one of the staff. We do a lot of customer orders, so in the summer months we tend to get a lot of orders for garden furnitures, and again it gives the students that sense of achievement when they get something from a bit of wood to then a finished product that someone's going to buy. They'll also work with other departments. So in preparation for the cafe opening next week, we've built a new fence in our animal department. So they work with that team to do that. Involved in some joinery tasks. If a door is sticking down in the common, might be asked to do that. We've also got a maintenance department. They can work all over the site. So again, if something needs fixed, they would be the first team that we would contact. And it's helping people to develop some sort of basic skills looking after your own house. So it could be something like from a broken toilet seat to something's broken to upcycling furniture. They've been doing a bit of that. Painting, I joke with them that if you stand still long enough, the maintenance department you. But so they're the first port of call for anything that's needing fixed. And it might be something, you know, for our students, how do you change a light? You know, if something's broken in your house, how do we fix it, or what might you need to do? So really trying to develop independent living skills. Although I said that we're very much a practical and outdoor based, we do have some qualifications. So if you're in our horty department, we look at doing a level 1 SVQ qualification. That's not for everybody. And once somebody's been in the department for about 6 months, we look at, would that be the right qualification for them to do? We do rural skills, and I know a lot of people when they came from school had the rural skills, but again, it might be the first time somebody gets a qualification when they come to Canterbury. So we feel if we can offer it, we would like to. So the rural skills look at land-based industries, employability skills. So what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are employers looking for, animal handling, the welfare needs of animals, and looking at the general estate. So it could be fixing paths, fixing fences. We look at doing the John Muir Award as well, which is an environmental award which focuses on wild places. We recently got some funding from Grow Wild where to upgrading our car park wall. So we've got that was getting lots of mosaics. So when you hopefully come out to Canterbury, you should see our car park wall. We're looking at doing the RSPB Wild Award. So looking at wild gardens, birds, insects, wildflower areas. So we try and offer students different things, keep it fresh, so it's not always the same thing. And we've also worked with Lead Scotland, have come out and delivered some courses in the past. So we really try and try to offer different things for our different students. We've got a couple of new departments coming, excited about. Although we say rural skills, we realise that we need to move with the times. So we've just got some funding for some new IT equipment. So we're going to have virtual headsets, 3D scanners and printers. And we really think that this will help with our students' learning, because a lot of our young people are visual learners. But we think that will offer something different for maybe somebody who doesn't want to come and be in farming or be in horty. We've also going to be starting an arts and craft group. So looking at creative learning, we've which our maintenance department equipment has managed to obtain. So we're looking to introduce some music for people who want that. And our cafe is reopening, which we're very excited about, next Wednesday. So that will be open to the public Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we will have students in the department on a Monday, Tuesday, and they will be looking at prepping food, how does the cafe work, and then they will have a day in the cafe as well. So giving students that opportunity as well. And again, when we have the public one place, our students love to show what we do and show around the departments or to them in the cafe. What we're looking also to do, when historically when people come to Canterbury, they're in the department for that full day. What we're looking now to do is that somebody could come for a morning session or an afternoon session, or be in one group in the morning and another group in the afternoon. So just trying to be a bit more flexible. We've also got a small gym on site, so that we're looking to, for the students who want that will be built into their timetable as well. So really looking at more sort of individual timetables and being more flexible. We also will link in with other health professionals, so psychologists, dietitians, LD nurses, and sometimes we will make a referral to that service as well, just so that we can make sure that we're supporting the person the best way that we can do. Our group sizes tend to be in a 1:6 ratio, although we have limited spaces. Some of our students have one-to-one support when they come to Canterbridge, but that's fairly limited ability at the moment, and our training day is between 10 and 4. We have a transitions worker, Jim, who's recently started with us. So the idea would be that when students are ready to move on from the next stage from Canterbridge, we'll maybe look at doing a work placement or some volunteering with a view, and for some students it might be looking at options as well. So Jim will link in with other agencies there as well. We try to be very much student-led. So on the college side, we have a student committee, and they came up with the name of Voices of Cantry. So it's very much what our students want. So we try and listen to what our students want. So things like the day-to-day running of the college, can we make things better for them and listen to their voice? There's also a student committee down in our accommodation. We have our own transport, which goes into central points in Inverness and Nairn to bring students out to Canterbridge. We're open all year, round apart from Christmas. We shut for the 2 weeks at Christmas, so therefore people can start and finish at different times throughout the year, and that can be sometimes, it's great for the young person, but then can be when I'm sort of thinking about spaces for others, because sometimes we will have a space back by this date, so that can be a bit more difficult to manage. We've got accommodation for up to 20 students. We're also registered with the care inspector. We've got a combination of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom houses. So everybody in the 2 and 3 bedroom houses has their own private bedroom, but they would share the other facilities. And in our accommodation, we're really focusing on developing independent living skills. So from budgeting, cooking, housework, going for shopping, all the things that we would want out of our lives, that's what we want for our young people as well. Some of our young students will go into town on the weekends on their own on the bus. That might not be for all of our students, depending on the level of support. We have a separate staff team, independent living workers, and each house would have their own house buddy. I think for students who are coming to Canterbridge, if they're staying in the accommodation, they don't have to attend 5 days a week, but we'd be looking at least at a minimum of three days. And we have one student who currently she attends Canterbridge, but she goes to the UHI a couple of days as well. Our application process is, coming out for a visit for the young person to see what we do, and we think that's really helpful. We also ask for an application form or the personal outcome plan or the child plan or any other professional reports that might be necessary, and that really helps us decide that to make sure that we're the right fit for the young person. Our age range is from 18. It used to be 16, but it's now 18, and our age range is usually 18 to 30-year-old. And our students would normally have a learning disability or be on the autistic spectrum. Referrals can come. We've had referrals from parents, from social work, obviously, but what we'd always say is that it needs to be discussion with social worker, because that's essentially where the funding comes from. I'm happy at the moment, all transition contact is coming through myself at the moment, so if somebody was to phone Canterbridge, they would pass it on to me. I did have a transitions in worker previously, but they left during furlough. So at the moment, I'm sort of trying to juggle transitions with the other parts of my job. So I'm aware that sometimes there's a bit of delay in getting around to folks, but we're looking at that as well. So I think hopefully that's giving you a bit of a snapshot of Canterbridge.
Thank you so much, Norma, and we could hear you perfectly. I don't know if you want to just pop your camera back on and we can see you again, which would be lovely.
Hopefully it won't disappear.
That's great. And you answered the question that had come up on the chat about the ages of people, which was great. How about the waiting list? You know, if somebody does want to go, what sort of waiting list have you got?
Again, I would say, like with Ishbel and Lars, I would say we have a waiting list, we have an applications list, because it would depend on the availability, the resource that we've got, and the young person's needs as well. So it's not a case you're first third in the list. It's managing what options and what resources and make sure we're the right person. I've seen at the moment some people are maybe needing more intense support, can maybe even because we don't have one-to-one ability at the moment, then that can be difficult to start a young person.
That's great. Thanks. Sorry, it's dipping in and out again a bit, your microphone, but that was great. I have to say, Cantry Bridge is another lovely place to go to, and I'm delighted to hear that your cafe is opening again this week. If anybody is interested to go and have a look at Cantry Bridge, I highly recommend going along to the cafe, and you can obviously get a flavour then for what happens there. And it's absolutely lovely to get a taste of all the different things that go on for the young people that are there. It's a wonderful place. So thank you so much, Norma, for today. Again, I'm sure if you have any information that you'd like to share with, we can send that out. We have got one more presentation this morning, and then we will have a general question and answer session. If you're able to stay for that, that would be great. We haven't actually got many questions in the chat, but if you do have any questions for any of the speakers that we've heard from so far today, if you could put them into the chat, we can put those to the speakers afterwards. Or equally, if they're just general questions about transition and about what you should be doing for your young person, pop those in the chat and we'll see if somebody can help you. Obviously, if you can just make them anonymous so we don't know the name of your young person, that would be great. But I'm delighted now to hand over to our final speaker, Ryrie, who is from Enable Works Highland, and I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about the support that you can offer. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Hello everyone. So my name's Ryrie. I'm the contract manager for Enable Works, and we have a service called All in Highlands, which is a voluntary supported employment service. And the idea is to deliver high quality support to people who are aged 16 plus and who have a disability or a long-term health condition. Now, we have a team of advisors spread throughout the Highland region. So we have an advisor down in Fort William, we've one in Rossshire, one up in Thurso. We've around 4 in Inverness as well. So the service is aimed at those who are 16 plus, and someone can come onto the service if they're within 6 months of leaving education. So if they've got an end date within 6 months, then they'd be eligible to come onto the service. The goal of what we do is really to support an individual to achieve one of sort of 3 goals following support from us. So that could be moving into employment or moving into further education or to gain a qualification of some kind. Now, there's no sort of limits or expectations on the amount of hours that someone has to be looking for. So if someone's looking for, you know, a couple hours a week all the way up to full-time work, then that's fine as well. So there's no requirement around that. The way that we help someone is that we work with them to create an individual action plan, which is going to progress them towards either one of those goals. So gaining employment, moving into further education, or moving into training. What we would normally do is that a coordinator would be assigned to the individual, and they would meet with them typically about once a week for about an hour at a time. And we would just help to identify if, for example, someone wants to move into employment, so what are the potential barriers to that? So what's maybe getting in the way of me getting a job right now? And that can be a whole range of different things. And we'll then come up with a plan of targeting each of those individually and helping to overcome them. So for a lot of people, it's what we call employability skills. So helping to create a CV or review a CV if you've got one already. Helping with job searching, applying for jobs, where to job search, setting up work trials or work placements, so approaching employers on your behalf, and helping with interviews and interview prep. And quite often a good part of what we do is like carrying out some mock interviews as well. So really all the things that we need to do to help you to move forward. And if it's going into further education, that would be maybe going along with you, arranging a visit, helping to fill out the application forms as well, and things like that. So that support can continue generally for up to around a year's worth of time with an individual, working with them, as I say, about an hour a week, weekly appointments. We also offer, on top of that, some group session activity as well. Now, that can be geared around a range of different subjects. It can be around sort of health and well-being, healthy eating, but again, there's also a social aspect to those group sessions as well. Those are delivered remotely, so we do them over likes of Zoom or Teams, just whatever works for people. We tend to go and work out in the community, so we meet people at local hubs, community spaces and things like that. When someone moves into work, there's support available to them as they start their job. Now, the kind of support that we offer when someone begins working is that we could go along with them on the first day and spend a little bit of time with them. But really from there, it's more of a stepping back process. So unfortunately, one of the things that we don't offer is what we would call on-the-job job coaching. So we don't go in and work alongside an individual, but we would support them there on their first day. We go make sure that they got there on time and that everything was fine with how they got there. That aftercare really is a blend of support between the individual and their new employer. So what we do is tend to be in contact usually for around the first 13 weeks weekly, just making sure that the individual's settling well into their new job, that they're feeling comfortable, confident and safe. If there's any questions or things that they're unsure of, they can ask their advisor for support. However, if there's things that, you know, they may be wanting to bring up with their employer, but they're feeling a bit anxious about discussing with the employer, then we support that as well. And we do the same thing for the employer as well. Now, that support can continue for up to 6 months from someone gaining work. So the way that would work is that we're really there in the background. We would step back, we'd have an action plan about being in work and just making sure that everything's running smoothly for you. So overall, you've got a year's worth of support to either move into employment or education or to gain some qualifications along the way. And then following moving into employment, you would gain up to 6 months of support, just making sure that that works out. And as I said, we're aimed at those who are 16 plus. If someone's still in education at the moment, if they have a leaving date within the next 6 months, then they'd be eligible for our service. And getting in touch with us, I'll be able to share methods of referral or how to get in touch. You can either self-refer onto the service, or if you're claiming benefits at the job centre, you can speak to your work coach who can refer you on to our service as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ryrie. Lots of really useful information there and really practical information, hopefully for people to have a look at afterwards as well. There is one question that's come up in the chat for you from Rosemary. I'm in Wester Ross and we used to have a transitions champion, but not anymore. Whatever happened to that role, Eugene? Oh, sorry, that was a question for Eugene. Sorry, not for you.
No worries.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. That was very confusing, wasn't it? If anybody has any particular questions for Ryrie, if you could pop them into the chat now, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to hand over to Carrie just to go through any of the other questions that we've had in. And I think there will be time as well for anybody who's got any questions for any of the speakers today or general ones just to ask them. We'll finish our session recording now, so hopefully you won't mind that your faces will appear on camera. If you're happy to put your cameras on when you're talking, that would be great. But a big thank you from me to all of our speakers today. It's been absolutely lovely to hear from you and such a lot of useful information. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Carrie.